Olá, pessoa, vamos considerar o Brasil. Onde há negros no Brasil, nos tempos antigos. Se então, herói do Brasil? Hero of Brazil. Porque demorou 3 séculos para o Brasil reconhecer oficialmente o único verdadeiro herói popular do Brasil. Porque why did it take Brazil 3 centuries to officially recognize one of its true popular heroes? Also, Brazil was the last country in the Western world to abolish slavery. By the time it abolished in 1888, an estimated 4 million slaves had been imported from Africa to Brazil, of which 40% of the total number of slaves brought to America went to Brazil. Is Brazil an African country? Statistics would show that Brazil is a unique nation. For instance, it has produced great and talented players. We see here Nascimento or Pelé, one of the greatest footballers the earth has ever seen. And Brazil has won 5 World Cups, is the highest of all the countries to have won that. But there are real questions that we need to ask today. Questions that involve race. These questions will bring a number of hard facts concerning Brazil. While it is unique, there have been thousands of warriors in many fields. But in Brazil, one hero was not officially recognized for almost 300 years. Who is this hero? Why did it take so long? What did he do? Maybe the other question that we have to ask is who is indigenous in Brazil? And actually, who should rule it if we are to go by the democratic principle of the majority? First, let's clarify the issue of who is a true indigenous Brazilian. We see that the images that we are seeing here, these are images of true Brazilian. But the official explanation could be a huge lie. The Indians who battled the Portuguese for land, we are told, are indigenous. But many of the Indians were killed and many others were forced to migrate into the interior of the country. Comparative morphology has shown that there were 2 types of phenotypically different races in Brazil. The Native Americans, as we are officially told, they are almost like Asians. But the earliest South Americans tend to be more similar to present-day Aboriginals of Australia, Melanesians, and Sub-Saharan Africa. More of this shows that a skull that has been discovered, or that was discovered, according to this website that is being shown here, changes history and solidifies the answer of who is indigenous in Brazil or Southern America or the whole of America. And the fossil first discovered in Brazil in 1975, but only recently found to come from a woman who lived 11.5 thousand years ago, shows there were human beings on that continent long before Asian immigration. This was said by anthropologist Ricardo Ventura Santos, and you can read it in the Japanese Time of September 22, 1999. And they then worked around that skull and discovered that and gave her the name Lucia. She looks like that. That is the image of the indigenous Brazilian. And the other mock-up of what Lucia looks like is like that. 12,000 before Common Era BCE. African, proper, true, original African. This skull alters the theory on colonization of Americas, which means the people that were then found there to be the Red Indians or the American Indian was a mulatto of the indigenous black people and the migration or the Asian who migrated into America. Before Lucia's appearance, paleontologists had been working on the theory that the earliest Americans were the Asian ancestors of the Indians that European colonizers encountered when they arrived on the American continent 500 years ago. This now is a lie. According to this skull, this is a total lie. The truth has just been revealed here. So, black people in Brazil, the majority, but they are under tremendous siege. Why? We need a hero. There is a precedent about this. So, this is the hero that we are talking about. Who is this man? Who is he? Can he represent the 12,000 year period, 12,000 before Common Era, BCE, and pull up today and come up today to liberate the black indigenous Brazilian and the descendants? A black person is murdered in Brazil every 23 minutes. What's startling about that statistic and Brazil's high record murder rate in general is that it is all too often the Brazilian police responsible for killing black mothers, fathers, future doctors, promising artists, and composers. You can watch this video. Let's watch this video a little bit.
54% of the Brazilian population is of African descent. You can see the legacy of the slave trade in the faces here. Brazil was the last country in the Western world to abolish slavery. It did so in 1888, 20 years after the US did. But despite the fact that more than half this country has African roots, you may have noticed that almost all of the faces that you have seen so far In the clips that we've shown you from Brazilian television, either corporate media or religious channels have one thing in common. They're white.
If
you turn on the TV in Brazil, there are hardly any black actors or presenters, hardly any black journalists. This is across all of the mainstream channels. We are not seen there. The invisibility of black people in spaces of power is glaring.
Just go to the newsroom of any newspaper or television station and look at the journalists working there. Almost all of them are white.
For example, when we try to raise the issue of black genocide, that every 23 minutes a young black person is murdered in Brazil, how does it end up being portrayed? It's always shootouts in the peripheries and the criminals were killed. There isn't even a narrative that serves to inform the public of the facts in Brazil, a country that was the last in the world to abolish slavery.
Finally, back to Globo and the story of the Brazilian TV beauty queen Nayara Justino. As examples of media malpractice in this country go, it is nowhere near the worst, but it is revealing. The title, Mulata Globaleza, was created by Globo. It's a beauty contest tied to its coverage of Brazil's annual carnival. That word, mulata, which some say has its roots in the word mula, meaning mule, is considered racist. A word loaded with colonial connotations, chosen by Globo for a beauty contest ostensibly held to celebrate racial integration. Viewers get to vote for the Globaleza, and 2014 marked a first. The winner, Nayara Justino, was dark-skinned and unmistakably black.
A Globeleza 2014 é Nayara.
Not everyone approved. Online trolls called Justino a monkey, a darky. A few months later, Globo had Justino replaced. It set the results of the vote aside and simply picked another woman. Globo insisted that its decision had nothing to do with skin color, that the choice came down to artistic fitness for the role. It said artistic merit prevails. The woman Globo picked to replace Justino had African roots as well, but her skin tone is much lighter. And, as one of the country's relatively few newsreaders of African descent will tell you, in the Brazilian media, racial integration has its limits.
I'm a black woman, but I have a skin tone that is a little lighter. And I can say that I am privileged in this, because the darker your skin is, the more you have to suffer in Brazil.
There was an official whitening policy in Brazil. The initiative that brought European immigrants here after the abolition of slavery was not accidental. It was done in order to whiten the population, because they believed that within 200 years, there would be no more blacks in Brazil. But we're still here, in this country, which still denies its African origins, and which runs on the idea that the whiter, the better.
You can read more on this website, miamiherald.com. We have seen from that video that there is a concerted effort to eliminate the black people in Brazil. So Brazilians must have an indigenous leader, an African in the mold of the great Zumbi dos Palmares, who is shown here, born 1655 and died 1694. This is the hero that Brazil does not want the world to know. Although they have a date and celebrate him, but for 300 years they were quiet about it. Now they show him, but they have a program to reduce the black population. What did Zumbi do? Where did he come from? Who is he? What did he do? Zumbi dos Palmares was born free in the Palmares region of Brazil in the year 1655. The last of the military leaders of the Quilombo, Kimbundu word for Quilombo, of the North Mbundu Bantu from Angola, meaning warrior village or settlement of Palmares. The Quilombos dos Palmares were a free society, or Maroons, or refugee slaves, and all South American Republic, which included the present-day Brazilian coastal city, states of Alagoas, Brazil. Today, Zumbi is known as one of the greatest or great historic leaders of Brazil. So he fought for freedom, but he didn't fight alone. Zumbi believed in all or nothing, victor or death principle. This was written by historian Decio Freitas, author of Palmares War of Slaves. This is Zumbi, the heroes. But he had a wife, Dandara dos Palmares. Dandara dos Palmares, shown here, was a black woman married to Zumbi. Dandara dos Palmares was a great warrior on the moon for the freedom of black people in the 17th century, conquered space leadership in Palmares struggle, and faced all these struggles in Palmares. Zumbi was the companion or the husband of Palmares and was followed on his side by this woman. She died in 1694 during a battle to defend Quilombo dos Macacos. Because she didn't want to be captured by the Portuguese and go into slavery, she committed suicide. Other women also fought in many battles, but are also often forgotten, as the case of Teresa de Pinguela, Quilombo leadership in the 13th century. She took over the Quilombo laws in Mato Grosso after the death of her husband. Later, he commanded the Quilombo Quarite, who grew up under his guard and even aided Bolivian and Brazilian Indians. Teresa was arrested by the Portuguese crown and committed suicide by denying slavery. So these are the heroines and heroes that we should look at today as we want to liberate our black people from Chinese invasion, from many other battles that are facing us. Capoeira. Capoeira shown here, which we must study, and every black person must be capable of doing it. Remember Zumba dance? But this is better and far much lethal and so powerful than Zumba dance. Black Brazilians of unknown conditions and origin watching a capoeira bout painting by Johannes Maurice Rugendas, 1835. Capoeira is a Brazilian martial art that combines elements of dance, acrobatics, and music, and is sometimes referred to as a game. It was developed in Brazil by black people. This is what we need to practice, to teach our kids, of males and females. Many people are practicing this and benefiting a lot. So in conclusion, we have seen that we have a hero who set a precedent of liberating a people. This is what our politicians, these are heroes that our politicians can look at and study and implement, and anyone can implement it. This is Zumbi of Angolan descent, a Bantu who went to a land which was founded by Asian Bantus, but later on the Asians, the mulattoes, rose up, and these are the ones that are shown on television everywhere. So in conclusion, therefore, in Brazil, the warrior hero Zumbi was not officially recognized for almost 300 years. Why? Because Zumbi believed in all or nothing type of mentality, victory or death. For all the current and future battles facing our people on earth, this is a worthy attitude to live by. This is a worthy idea to be engrossed in. All or nothing, victory or death. Committee Hebrew Ethics, our mission is to teach revealed applied knowledge that enables any black person achieve their goal. All or nothing, winning or death. Thank you all. Siyabonga Tatenda. This is Priest Rabbi LM Tumizulu of Committee Hebrew Ethics. Subscribe to our channel and let us work together. This is our website, lifespiritofamenchem.com. Visit us and contact us on this email, lmtumizulu@gmail.com, and let us all again win in this war. Thank you. Goodbye.